This episode picks up right at the beginning of chapter 267 with Hawks and Tokoyami on their internship, and here we see Hawks explaining his quirk and its weaknesses to Tokoyami, which pretty much just boil down to fire bad, strike fast, a weakness that Tokoyami himself shares, not only because he has feathers that can likely burn just as much as Hawks's do, but also because Dark Shadow is inherently weak to light, so quirk users like Shoto or even Bakugo can disarm Dark Shadow rather easily. We see Fat Gum getting all of the AoE users out of the fight, since from this point on it's less of an AoE battle and more of a bunch of one-on-one or group battles where having a quirk that just splashes out into a wide area could hinder some of the pro heroes and what they do. So this tactic makes sense, and at the end of the day this is a good excuse to get the students out of there and let the adults handle the brunt of the danger. Tokoyami spots Hawks flying out of the room where the fight between him, Dabi, and Twice is going down, and instead of being right where this episode picks off, this is actually that moment we saw last episode where Hawks uses Dabi's fire as a cover to leave the entire room that they're in while circling around at breakneck speed to flank the two villains and try to take Twice down. Now cutting back to the present, we see Twice's body exactly like we do in the manga, but here's where things get a little bit different in the anime side. In the manga we see Dabi going off on Hawks about killing Twice, and at the end of it we see Dabi with a big twisted smile on his face, while Hawks remarks, "Is that really the face of a man who just watched a friend die?" throwing Dabi's words completely into question. But the way that this scene was voice acted in the anime just gave me the impression that despite the creepy smile and despite everything, Dabi actually did get really upset at the fact that Twice died, and that while it is something that he's willing to accept because according to him he doesn't care about the league at all, something that I'd question considering later events in the story, it's still something that really gets in the way of his goal, or at least he thinks so at this point. So at the very least, shout out to the voice acting team, because geez, I mean, they really made me wonder if there was actually any truth to what Dabi is saying, and it just makes this already interesting scene all the better for it. Now Hawks, who has access to all sorts of public records and information thanks to his ties to the Public Safety Commission, tells Dabi that he couldn't find any information on Dabi or Shigaraki, no matter how hard he looked. A comparison that to us is meant to signify that Dabi is much more important than he seems, and even if what we all think is true, that's not the end to the mystery behind this man. Because how does he know Hawks' real name? It seems like Dabi's true identity is only the start of where the mysteries go with this guy. From there we see Hawks being taken in by the Public Safety Commission, and I hope we do get into some of the Deku arc stuff later on in the season, because I think this flashback will be placed really well against some of the stuff that we get from a particular character later on in the story. But here we have the Public Safety Commission framed as enabling Hawks to be a hero, but knowing how shady this organization really is, it really just frames this in a completely different way to how it was framed when we first see it. So yes, while I am happy that Hawks was given the opportunity to rise above his rough beginnings and become such a beloved and amazing hero, I also sort of wish he'd been given his freedom instead. But I suppose it is very ironic that the character with wings is one of the ones of the least freedom in the entire show. Here's where we get the scene that a lot of people have been waiting to see, where Hawks asks Dabi who he really is, and Dabi actually answers Hawks, finally revealing the truth to just Hawks. As Horikoshi and the team over at Bones leave this section of audio completely blank, matching the pitch black bubble that we saw originally in the manga, that was an interesting device by Horikoshi to let us know that Dabi did say something and that what he said had a lot of weight, without actually letting us, the audience, hear it. You can imagine how crazy hype we were when this happened in the manga, and all I can say to anime onlys is wait for a little longer and you'll find out exactly what was said here. Now after checking up on Makia, who thankfully is still sitting there awaiting orders from an unconscious Shigaraki, we cut back to the hospital, but things are a little out of place from how they happened in the manga. No worries here though, since all Bones did was just make the events happen in the correct order, so instead of us cutting to Mirko fighting all the high-end Nomu and then getting a flashback of Endeavor's arrival, we see Endeavor arriving in real time, or I guess like in chronological order, to help out Crust as Aizawa and Exless help the team of heroes to make it to Mirko, where we do then see Mirko fighting the other high-ends like we're supposed to. This also means that we've likely skipped over the cliffhanger to chapter 267, something that we'll likely be seeing next episode as we're leaving the Dabi and Hawks area for the rest of the episode to focus on Shigaraki's awakening. Mirko goes absolutely crazy, dodging and leaping past and through the high-end Nomu before Endeavor and the others can really give her backup. And again, the team over at Bones just clearly loves Mirko as much as Hori does, because whenever she's on screen, she's just getting a lot of love and attention from the animation department. Eventually, Mirko comes flying in to try to stop Shigaraki, or how she says it, this thing, from getting out of the tank, because according to her rabbit instincts, which we have seen in My Hero Academia Vigilantes to a larger extent, the fact that like a rabbit, she can get a sense of anything that would really be better to avoid, all senses here are ringing like there's a 5-alarm fire floating in that tank, and that 5-alarm fire is because of Shigaraki. Now in the other room, we have the woman high-end Nomu learning more and more as she awakens and adapts, and finally starts to give the hero some actual trouble. She quickly figures out that it's Aizawa locking away her quirks, and even figures out that his quirk is sight-based, so she just needs to get out of his field of view. She does so and unleashes a torrent of quick infused water bullets made of her body parts, because she can liquefy her body, and she shoots those at the heroes. And no, I didn't forget how you guys acted when we got this page. Yes, I am still disgusted. I want to actually say shout out to Bones for giving Exless so much focus in this episode. He actually did more in this episode than I think several members of Class 1A have ever done throughout the entire series. And he really made that eye laser quirk also look way cooler than I thought it was, with the energy just sitting on his face like a bright flame, just alit, ready to be shot out. That was really awesome. Exless fights with the woman high-end for a while, and eventually, when President Mike is able to break Shigaraki's pod, Exless is given the worst job on the planet babysitting Shigaraki's body until the heroes figure out what to do with it. Yeah, that job definitely should just go to some random hero. Yeah. Nothing gonna go wrong there. Eventually in the episode, we reach a segment where President Mike and the Doctor finally meet face to face and have a conversation while Mike tries to escort the Doctor out of the lab. The Doctor reveals to Mike that originally, instead of being after Shirakumo, All For One and him were after Aizawa and his quirk Erasure. This is because to make a suitable attendant or friend for Shigaraki, they wanted someone with the sort of personality who would be a good caretaker, but also someone that could put him in check when the occasion arose. We saw multiple times in the series that Kurogiri could open portals to stop Shigaraki from attacking people, like when Shigaraki, Dabi, and Toga originally met. And I think Aizawa would have served a very similar purpose by shutting Shigaraki's quirk down whenever he got rowdy, but also imagine how useful Aizawa's Nomu would have been in the fight against All Might, right? Or any other point in the series. It would have seriously changed the entire landscape of My Hero Academia. And in the comment section below, please let me know who you'd replace Aizawa with as the teacher of Class 1A, if you could pick any hero, I guess, in a timeline where Aizawa became a high-end. Would you just pick Shirakumo, or would you pick someone else? Regardless, this section of the story doesn't hit as hard as it did in the manga, because there's no My Hero Academia Vigilantes anime as of yet. And this is where Aizawa and Shirakumo's backstory is really told, something that I'm going to be saying again later on in the season when some other developments happen that again would have really benefited from someone thinking to animate Vigilantes, or at least just the Aizawa section as an OVA or something. Specifically just to make this arc and some stuff in the last season hit a little harder when his character is involved. The Doctor finally lets the cat out of the bag that not only can he copy quirks, but his quirk was actually given to All For One, and the version that the Doctor currently has himself is a copy, because the original version of a quirk is more powerful, and again, the Doctor basically worships All For One. Things don't stop there though, as All For One also has the idea to take his original version of All For One, the quirk, give himself a copy of the base quirk that he had to fill up with all new abilities, and then he places the original All For One quirk likely in one of those odd chips that we see all around the Doctor's lab, before the Doctor then goes and re-meets Shigaraki, gives him a surgery to prepare his body for the quirk transferring procedure, and then proceeded to transfer All For One's original quirk, the one that was used to fight Prime All Might, into Shigaraki's body. This gives Shigaraki the full original All For One quirk with all the quirks that it's gained over the course of the series and from the beginning of its creation with the birth of All For One generations ago. Meaning that Shigaraki is being given an almost limitless source of power here that, paired with his newly enhanced body, is going to really make him nearly unstoppable. At the end of this episode, we get a scene of a dream that Shigaraki is having with what I assume is his version of the Vestige world, where he sees every member of his family whose hand he's carried around with him, trying to either stop him from accepting All For One's quirk, or to at least help him to remember his original goal of becoming a hero when he was still just Tenko. And despite their pleading, Shigaraki moves forward, embracing All For One into his system, and finally waking up from death thanks to destiny, I suppose, and the shock of an electrical cable tied to one of the doctor's machines that was destroyed by Mirko. But since Exless didn't move Shigaraki from a pool of water, the new Demon Lord was finally shocked back to life as he reawakens. Now next week we're going to see exactly where things go from here, with Shigaraki's awakening making ridiculous trouble for everyone in the surrounding area, but I also expect to pick back on the Hawks area a little bit at some point next week, so we're focusing a lot on some of the bigger villains in this series right now, kind of moving forward with Dabi and Shigaraki. But you know what time it is now that Shigaraki is awake. The arc is definitely going to truly start to begin in earnest, with everything to come being much crazier than what we've seen so far. So hopefully the anime can keep up. I know this is one of the hypest stretches of chapters in the manga, at least for me at the time, so stay tuned and let's together see if Bones can keep it up. But I really like this episode, and like I said in my reaction, I'd probably give it a 9 if I were scoring it. All around the board, it was just a really great episode and really well done and handled nearly to perfection. So now let's see what we can get next week, which will probably be a slightly toned down episode, I would imagine, or I'm predicting, after such a standout one in so many ways. So this is Pineapple. Thank you guys for joining for the breakdown, and if you haven't caught my reaction, you can click the card in the top right to view it right now. And if you're new to the channel, I'd love to have you guys subscribe to keep up with all the fun that we're going to be having on the channel soon. I'm focusing big right now on My Hero Academia and Chainsaw Man, but expect a few interesting things coming in the near future that you aren't expecting. And please like the video if you learned anything new or you just liked what I had to say. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another fresh upload. It's Pineapple again. Peace.